Look at the difference between these two images. On the left, a starving 12-year-old girl covered in ash. On the right, a pristine 16-year-old level 5 adventurer. They are the same person. This is chapter 1 of the web novel, My Certification Level Keeps Rising, but All I Do Is Laze Around. This math tracks her journey, 7,644 kilometers. It took her party 6 months by carriage, crossing 2 distinct sovereign borders, to reach the colossal white stone gates of the imperial capital. Pulling a heavy cart that far creates a massive caloric deficit for the horses. Roadside grass couldn't sustain them. To keep the beasts from dropping dead, the party's healer, Ellen, had to sit at the front of the cart every single day, pumping her own mana into the horses to knit their tearing muscles back together. Arya wears the badge of a level 5 adventurer. In her home country, she is the undisputed sword prodigy.
She is the youngest person in recorded history to reach that rank, making her a celebrity in a kingdom that barely registers on a map. But standing before the imperial capital, that social prestige means nothing to her. The reason she crossed an entire continent is rooted in a memory from 4 years ago, a memory that starts with the smell of rotting leaves. Under a sickly, pale yellow sky, 12-year-old Arya knelt in her family's ruined wheat field. Her small hands clawed through brittle gray dirt, desperate to find a single root that hadn't crumbled into black powder. The village was dying. Elder Corin, his breathing now a wet, rattling wheeze, confirmed the grim reality. The blight was in the air and the water. The soil was entirely drained of life, and no help was coming. Lord Vane, the regional ruler, ordered his knights to fell trees across the northern passes. He issued a strict shoot-on-sight command for anyone attempting to leave Oakhaven, physically barricading the epidemic inside. Even the healers from the capital refused to come. Villagers were sealed inside behind nailed-shut doors, left to listen to their neighbors' agonizing coughs. The governing bodies simply cut off both escape and aid. Without medical relief, survival under quarantine is no longer a matter of law, but of absolute isolation. Inside Arya's stifling cottage, her mother lay on a narrow cot. She was so thin she barely disturbed the blanket, and dark, necrotic veins branched up her ashen neck. Gripping Arya's sleeve with desperate strength, her mother gave her one final instruction. Arya was to take their last 3 silver coins, wait for sunset, and use the hidden hunting trails to bypass the deadly barricades. When Arya begged to carry her, her mother refused. She chose to stay behind on that cot, sacrificing herself so the decay wouldn't take her daughter. This final act of maternal sacrifice forces a child to navigate an uncaring, lethal world alone. Arya's entire universe is collapsing, and she is expected to walk away from it. But Arya rejected her mother's tragic death sentence. She grabbed a wooden bucket and sprinted toward the village square, hoping the deep stone well still held clean water. She lowered the bucket into the dark shaft, but instead of a splash, the rope went slack. There was only a dull, hollow thud. She pulled it up to find nothing but cracked mud clinging to the wood. The village well had completely dried up. Arya dropped the bucket as her knees gave out. Pressing her forehead against the rough stones, she wept with absolute, unconditional defeat. Arya faced a multi-layered death sentence. She was abandoned by her lord, trapped by sickness, and finally cut off by the earth itself. Every logical avenue for survival was gone. Then a terrifying pressure filled the air. A young man, barely older than she is now, sprinted past the village quarantine borders with desperate speed. They collided. Arya hit the hard-packed ground, terrified of what this unknown intruder might do to a clumsy village girl. But the stranger didn't look angry. Instead, he displayed a terrifyingly unnatural calm. His face was completely blank, yet his hands were violently trembling. Ignoring the cursed village around him, the young man stared directly into Arya's eyes. He let out a heavy exhale and muttered 2 words: "Strong aura." The stranger's arrival is a glitch in the quarantine's logic. In a place where every path is blocked by steel and sickness, he is an outside variable that simply shouldn't be there. During the fall, something heavy slipped from his pocket. A glowing silver artifact known as the Pendant of the Uninterrupted Nap landed in the dirt between them. His voice cracking with panic, the young man desperately ordered her to take the heavy artifact. Who is this shivering man, and how does a dropped pendant turn a doomed village girl into a level 5 sword prodigy? To find out how a shivering boy and a dropped pendant took Arya from a dry well to the gates of the capital, read My Certification Level Keeps Rising, But All I Do Is Laze Around, available now on WebNovel. The path that leads Arya to the Imperial capital begins in the dry mud of Oakhaven, starting with a trembling boy and a heavy silver artifact left behind in the dirt.